What's up, big dog? Have you ever had your athletes, or if you are a pass rusher or a defensive lineman, period, have you ever gotten a season and you tend to start forgetting some of the stuff you worked on in the offseason? The pass rush moves you worked on, dealing with the double team, reach blocks, RPOs, your best pass rush moves, your go-tos, your counters, all that stuff you worked so hard for in the offseason, you tend to start forgetting. This is why, for my coaches and athletes, this is why Zooms are very important. A lot of times with your teams, you may only get about 10 to 15 minutes in film with your positional coaches, but you don't always get a full hour of breakdown where you get to really break down yourself, what you did on that rush, what you did on that play, where your hands were, where your feet were, did you make the right choices, your pre-snap reads, all those things. You don't always get a chance to really break that down on your own pace and at your own time. This is why with my NFL guys, college and high schoolers, we do in-season Zooms. When I was an athlete, I wish I had that. I wish I had something to where I can actually take my time, ask all the dumb questions I needed to ask, so that on my pace and in my time, I could fully understand what I needed to do, what I needed to fix, and how I could fix it. Big Dog, I highly recommend for you to have a in-season Zoom session, and I would love to help you. Go to bigdogfootball.com, and you're going to see Zoom in-season sessions. Click there. Let's set up. Let's get together, and let me help you be the best dog you can be at the line of scrimmage. You know what time it is. Let's go to work.
Work, work, work. Let's work. Work, work.
What's up, Big Dog? This is Coach Roll, and we are back in the lab with Big Dog Trench Talk. October 5th, 2024 was a day of reckoning. There were so many college teams, top-ranked college football teams that lost against, most of them, against unranked teams. And this shocked me quite a bit. Definitely. Some of the teams that lost and some of the teams that won, it was evident, not obviously just to the teams that won, but obviously also a shock to the fans. I mean, schools got fined because students took the field and tore down the goalposts. And but they were shocked that some of the games that they won, that they pulled it off. It just makes me think, why? Now, I'm not a guy that's big on numbers. You know, just because you are number one in the country, just because you're number two in the country, number 10, number 12, number 9, just because you're ranked high in the country, it does not guarantee that I'm just going to allow you to just roll over me for 4 quarters. You're going to have to show me that you are what they say you are. So I'm not big on numbers. I'm not saying what I'm getting ready to say because of this team was unranked, but that team was, because we know that for many years, those numbers haven't always been accurate. And some of you will say they never are. And it's unfortunate because a lot of college teams that could have had the opportunities to play in national championship games did not because of these numbers, this number system. That's a whole nother topic. What I want to talk about is why. Why did we just witness some of the top, yes, ranked, but also some of the top performing teams in the country lose on the same day? A lot of them won. Some of them barely, but they won. A win is a win. But About 4 did not. Why is that? On the flip side of the coin, why is it that the teams that were unranked, some of them, beat the teams that were? There are two sides to it. So in essence, I'm asking, why did the high-ranked teams lose and why did the unranked teams win? If we could bottle that up and sell it, big dog, we'd be rich. If that answer was easy, if that was a simple answer, if there was a formula, hey, take this, you're getting ready to play a ranked team, take this, and it is a guarantee that you are going to come out victorious. Man, we'd all be rich. But it's never that easy. But I'm going to talk about today some of the reasons why I think that might have occurred. You all know that I played on the University of Florida team, and we played University of Miami in the bowl game, and we lost to one of the largest deficits, scoring deficits, and lost that bowl game against Miami. I know why we lost. There were several reasons why we lost. I came from Miami. I was born and raised in Miami, and a lot of those guys, I would say 70%, 60 to 70% of those guys, I knew those guys. I know, or I knew their mentality. I know how they were going to play this game. I knew it. It was a pride thing. It was, who's the best team in Florida? Is it Florida? Is it Miami? Is it Florida State? At the time, those were the 3 teams that were competing for the title of being the best team in Florida. So anytime Miami played University of Florida, or when Florida played Florida State, or if Miami got a chance to play Florida State, you know, it was going to be a different game. It did not matter who was ranked what, because a lot of us knew each other during that time and still now, because a lot of those teams recruit out of Florida. So they knew each other. We all knew that game was going to be different. Nobody cared what you was ranked. You was lined up across from me. I know who you are from high school or even youth football. And it was time to prove that we were better than you. Numbers didn't matter. So I knew how, when we played them in the bowl game, I knew how they were coming. I knew what they were going to do. I knew how they were going to play. I think that was in 2002 or 2003. Don't quote me on that. It was somewhere around there. So and I'm going to talk about a little bit of that stuff today, but October 5th, 2024 was pretty devastating with what I witnessed. So let's talk about this. Pull out my phone here. Look at some of these scores. If you did not watch some of these, I think it'll be worth your time to go back and watch some of these games. I'm telling you now, college football this year has been amazing. It is the highlight of my week to get down and watch some college football with the way things have been playing out. My goodness. So here we go. Michigan versus Washington. 17-27, Washington. Michigan was ranked. Washington was not. And Washington came with a win. University of Miami versus Cal. Now, Miami did not lose, but they were losing almost the entire game. Almost the entire game. Got to give it to Cal. Cal brought it. I mean, they were playing a heck of a game. To lose the way that they lost was pretty tough. I'm sure it was pretty tough on Cal. But Cal was giving it to him at home. That was a long way from Miami, but they pulled it off in the very end. That was a tough game, but eventually Miami pulled it off. So that's not one of the games I'm talking about. But the rest will be. Tennessee versus Arkansas. 14-19. Winner, Arkansas. Arkansas was unranked. Tennessee, I think at the time was ranked number 4, and they lost that game. SEC football is always tough, period. It doesn't matter what you are ranked. It's going to be a tough game. Who else we got? Missouri versus Texas A&M. I honestly think Texas A&M has been putting on a show. They have been battling all year. They've been doing a great job. As a young man that plays for them, I've coached him last 2 years, and he's been doing very well. And Texas A&M at the time was ranked 25. Missouri was ranked, believe, number 9. The score was 10-41. 10-41. Texas A&M wins. I mean, they put a whooping on Missouri. That was rough to watch. I was embarrassed for Missouri watching this game, being ranked number 9 in the country, playing against number 25. Now, I didn't think Texas A&M should be number 25 the way that they've been playing hard-nosed football, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But they exposed Missouri, which is why Missouri got dropped all the way to 21. They got dropped down to number 21 in the country. Wow. The one that surprised everybody the most was Alabama, number 1 in the country. Powerhouse Alabama. Powerhouse Alabama against Vanderbilt. Now, I played at University of Florida, like I said. You all know that. Not once has University of Florida ever lost to Vanderbilt. We never lost to Vandy. We had no intentions of ever losing to Vandy. Now, Vandy is not the same Vandy now. Let's get that straight. And Vandy wasn't necessarily a pushover back when I played either. It was just, you just didn't lose to them. That's the game that you did not lose. And you wanted to make sure you did not lose. That was a stats game, to be honest with you. That was a game where we played that game and we wanted to get as many sacks as possible, as many TFLs. I hate to say it, but that's true. Very true. Okay? Nick Saban just said the same thing a couple weeks ago about Vandy. But Vandy just beat Alabama. Vandy was not ranked, still not ranked. Alabama was number 1 in the country. And Alabama lost. Score was 35-40. How? I'm not saying that they don't have obviously they showed that they have the potential and the ability to play with the best team in the country. But we all know, and this is just my opinion, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I would venture to say that Alabama has more talent than Vanderbilt. They have more speed. I could be wrong, but that's what I've been seeing. More speed, more strength at the line of scrimmage. You know, Alabama has some talented guys. They always do, right? They get some of the best recruits in the country. Yes, they lost quite a bit when Nick Saban retired, but they still have a lot of talent, tremendous talent, that I wouldn't think Vanderbilt can match up to the talent that Alabama has. How do they pull that win off? I'm not saying that it was a miracle necessarily. I definitely do not want to take away from the head coaches, assistant coaches, some of the athletes that they brought with them when this coach became the head coach of Alabama. I'm not going to take the hard work and the scheme and the prep and the planning, and they had this marked on their calendar, and I'm sure they got some fuel after what Nick Saban said about them, but not taken away from them at all. But I would have definitely applauded Vanderbilt for giving Alabama a run. I would have applauded Vanderbilt for keeping it close. I still would have taken my hat off to Vanderbilt if it was, I don't know, 40 to 33, something like that. I'm like, wow, they played, they gave those guys a run for their money. They beat them. They beat Alabama 35 to 40. The question is, how did that happen? On Alabama's side, and what did Vanderbilt do to beat the Giants, to beat, it's a giant David and Goliath story, some would say. How did David beat Goliath? What happened? What was done? It's not like Vandy was undefeated. I think they were 2-2. They had 2 losses, though they had been playing a lot differently. But they beat the number 1 team that had just beat down Georgia. I mean, beat Georgia down. Yes, Georgia came back. It's a little too late. They had a little bit more time. Might have been a different situation. But they had just beat Georgia. I mean, beat them down. And Georgia's a great team. And Georgia was ranked number 1 at the time, I believe. And Alabama was not. And Alabama beat Georgia to become the number 1 team. They didn't hold on to that very long, but then turned around and got beat by Vanderbilt. Y'all see where I'm going with this? Is Vanderbilt better than Georgia? At this point, I don't even know. I can't say yes. I can't say no. I don't know. We got to see what the scoreboard says. Why? Because you don't know who's going to play the day of the game. You don't know who's going to show up. All that practice you put in, all the preparation you put in, all these things that you have been doing to build your program, you don't know which system is going to show up. The old system or the new system. Which system is going to show up? The unfortunate thing is, as hard as you work to build a new system, a new structure, all these things that you are sure will keep your structure strong and building a good program, you've worked hard to do that. You hope that that's what shows up every day in practice, every day, every game you play. You hope that that's what shows up. The problem is that these athletes still have access to the old system, to the old way of doing things. They still can choose to do things that they've not been taught. Those things that have been preached against, that have been told, we don't do that here. They still have access to it in their hearts and in their minds, and they still have the ability to make those choices, to choose which system do I use. And you got to be disciplined. You have to be disciplined to choose the system that your coaches and your teammates have chosen to apply. But when you start being selfish and you start doing your own thing, sometimes that stuff happens. Today in practice, literally today in practice, I am helping out with a nearby high school, and we were working on a tackling drill. And I'm watching the young man work on the tackling drill. When I teach tackling, I like to do it in a way where the athletes remember, the principles of tackling. So I kind of put it in words, and then each statement that I made is an actual emphasis, and it is broken into drills. So let me just say it. I'll explain more in a second. So when it comes to tackling, this is what I say. See what you hit, strike what you see. Rip with your arms. Wrap your wrists or fists and run your feet. See what you hit, strike what you see, rip, wrap, run your feet. See what you hit, strike what you see, rip, wrap, run your feet. So see what you hit right, is a drill within itself where we work on getting on the level of the strike. Strike What You See talks about triple extension coming out of your hips and exploding through the hip to midsection of that individual, going through that near hip. Rip talks about how you bring your arms when you're getting ready to tackle. Okay, a low to high motion versus a lean over and reach motion. We don't want that function. We want a rip, wrap your wrist or your fist, right? Because we want to make sure that when we make contact that we don't let them out because we have not ripped or wrapped our wrist on our feet, because we want to run our feet on contact and run through the guy. So that's how I teach tackling. There are tons of drills I do within that, but that's kind of what I say. See what you hit, strike what you see, rip, wrap, run your feet. So as we're going through the drill, some of the athletes are not doing it right. They're not doing it right. And I'm emphasizing it, and we're not going full speed. We want to get the technique down. We want to kind of ease our way into practice, but we want to make sure we set a foundation for the rest of the day. And so I stopped that portion of practice for a second. And what came to my mind to tell them was termites. I'm from Florida. And my dad taught me about termites, and he taught me how dangerous termites could be. If you don't pay attention and you're not aware, termites can destroy your house. Termites can destroy quite a few things. So I'd like to read this to you about termites. Termites are insects that eat decaying plant materials such as wood or leaf litter, so on and so forth. They are known as silent destroyers. Termites are known as silent destroyers. Silent destroyers. You don't know they're coming. You don't know all the time that they are there. They are silent destroyers because they can chew through wood, flooring, and even walls. Termites can destroy your home. Termites are not very big at all, but they can destroy a structure. They can tear down your house if you do not catch them, if you do not pay attention to the silent destroyers. And as I was talking to the team, I talked about termites. I talked about how the little things, the silent destroyers, can cause a whole house to come down. How termites can take your vision, your money, your time, your efforts, your creativity, and tear it down. Because you're not paying attention to your structure. You're not paying attention to your foundation. And if you are paying attention to your structure, and if you are paying attention to your foundation, and you see these little silent destroyers, and you don't do anything about them, one day your house is going to come down. One day your structure that you are building is going to come down. If you saw them and did nothing, or you're not looking for them and therefore never found them, doesn't mean they're not there. They will completely tear down what you've worked so hard to build up. The little tiny silent destroyers. As I'm talking to these young men, I told them, I said, you know what? This is important for me to stop and identify this because I'm trying to give you an example. I'm trying to model what it means to stop and identify the small things that can bring down big things. It's the small things that can bring down big things. And we have to stop and pay attention to them. We've got to stop and deal with those things. And what I told him was, I said, we have 3 more games left. We've got 3 more games left out of the season for season to be over. Once those 3 games are over, you still got school. Some of you play other sports. Some of you will be graduating. Some of you will go on to go to college or will go and work, somewhere and be successful somewhere. But even in those areas, you have to look for the termites, the silent destroyers. You have to have the ability to evaluate your structure, to make sure your foundation is where it needs to be. Because something is always trying to attack your foundation. There's always something trying to silently destroy your structure. Remember, on the previous podcast, I talked about the statue. I talked about the structure. I talked about that. And depending on what you are made of, you'll see what I mean in a second, termites can eat away at your foundation. They can destroy your structure. Those silent destroyers, those small insects, if you're not paying attention. It's not just my system against your system. It's not just my structure against your structure. Let me put it plainly. It's not just my team against your team. You got termites. You've got soldiers. You've got kings and queens. You've got another system in place that will destroy your whole empire. Those little silent destroyers. And if you think that you're too high, if you've gotten away from foundation and fundamentals, that's where they will get you. Those small things, those silent destroyers, those termites. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the little things like not touching the line when you're running conditioning. The little things like I saw a clip of one of the NFL practices and everybody had on one color and he had on another color. He was the only athlete that had a separate color than everybody else. Termites. Talking back to your coaches. Termites. If you're supposed to run your feet on the drill, run your feet on the drill. If you just did a drill and when it's time to go to team, you don't take that drill with you. You don't take that skill that you learned from that drill into the next segment of practice. Termites. Not being disciplined. It's termite. Not having trust on your team. It's termite. Not giving your utmost effort. Termite. Not having the best attitude. Not finishing plays. Not sacrificing for your team. Not running the play. Changing the play because you thought it was a better play to run. Termites. Not being to meetings on time. Termite. Not being to practice on time. Termite. Not studying your playbook. Termite. Not keeping your brother accountable. Termite. Not being responsible with your off time. You should be recovering. You should be stretching. You should be watching film. But no, you'd rather just go have some fun. You'd rather go do it doing something you have no business doing. Termite. Those are the things. Those are the things that destroy what you've worked so hard to build. Those little silent destroyers. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm not saying that that's why they lost. I don't know. I don't know why they lost. I know that they lost. Tennessee, Missouri, Alabama. Those are the three big ones. I don't know. I'm not on their team, and I'm not gonna act like I know. I don't have any inside. I don't have no inside information or anything like that. But I have lost to teams that we didn't feel we should have lost to. And I know for a fact that we had some termites. I know that. Absolutely, we had some termites. Were we talented? Oh my gosh, we were talented. That year draft showed that. Guys go first round, second round. I mean, we had guys, we had one of the best D tackles, if not the best D tackle at the time in the country that went first round. Right? We had speed. We had it all. Why did we lose some of the games we lost? Why did we lose to teams we shouldn't have lost to? We had termites. We had termites. And there are several teams. There are several teams all over, all levels. You know what's interesting about termites? I learned that termites are blind. Now, I don't know if I read the right information, but I did my research on them a little bit. Most of the termites are blind. They communicate through chemicals. I guess depending on the difference in the chemicals sends a different message to a termite, and they know through that chemical, that communicated chemical, what the next plan is. What are we doing? Where are we going? So they communicate, but they're blind. And which is very interesting because they're not intimidated by the size of your structure. They don't care if you're number 1, number 2, number 5, number 9, number 10 in the country. They don't care. They're blind. According to what I read, which is pretty interesting, they don't see that. And they don't care. They don't care what your colors are. They don't care what that logo is on your jersey. They don't care how many people follow you on social media, how much money you make. Think termites care? Termites don't care. Termites will reside wherever the environment is most conducive for them, and they will go to work. They don't care who you are. They don't care. And that's the thing. I think that is one of the number one problems, is that just because of a ranking, who you are, how people, put you on this pedestal, that tribulations and trials don't come just because of who you are, just because of how much money you make, just because of how good you are, all that stuff. The termites of life don't care. The termites of life will come eat your structure up and watch it fall to the ground. Everything you've worked so hard to build. It does not care. We may puff our chest up. We may hold our chin high. We may walk past people. We may not shake people's hands. We may do all these things because we're so high and mighty. Meanwhile, the silent destroyer is tearing your foundation up. It's eating away at your structure. It's removing your system from existing while you all high and mighty. While you can't be touched. Nobody can't, nobody's on my level. Okay. You're about to be brought down to a level that you've never been to before because of your termites. Your termites will terminate your structure. And that's why I think, and termites in this analogy could mean several different things. Not just mention several different things. And if you don't take care of those termites, you're going to see your house come down. You will ultimately see things change for the worse. You will begin to see foundations coming down, being removed, crumbling down. I've seen it happen to those who didn't take care of those termites. Now, the good news is that you can take care of the termites. There are different kinds of different termites. And the ones I'm specifically talking about are the ones that eat at wood. They're the ones that eat at decaying plant material. And I also want to read something else to you. Fascinating fact. One of the fun facts I read up on termites. And one of them said, termites have caused, or they cause around $5 to $6 billion worth of home damage. Any kind of home or structural damage, termites is most of the time is the reason behind it. And annually, termites cause $5 to $6 million worth of damage. $5 to $6 billion worth of damage. Not millions, billions. Termites is a problem. So one of the things that I would like to read to you is how do you stop? How do you treat termites? And I thought that this was very interesting. How do you treat termites? Okay. There's a lot of information on here, and this podcast is not about termites, obviously. It is, but it's also about how do I deal with the small things that's costing my structure to disintegrate? What do I do before it comes down, before it crumbles down? Because those losses were not the end, right? It's not like they're out of playoffs. It's not that they're out of having a successful season, but it is a type and shadow. It is a forecoming of what could happen if you do not fix those small things that you know is going on in your organization, that you know is going on within your collegiate football programs. You've got to fix it, because what just happened this past weekend will be nothing compared to what will happen if you don't fix and remove those termites. Fix your foundation and remove those termites. And that's what this is really about. But I do want to read to you some of the things that they talk about in regards to removing the termites and fixing your structure, fixing your foundation. So one of the biggest things that they talk about, depending on what kind of termites you have, one of the things that they talk about is checking your foundation. It says, and this is the one I kind of want to dig into. There's several different things that they recommend, but one of the things that they say is, if you have any leaks in your home, take care of those leaks right away. If there's any leaks that's causing the wood to be damped, or any kind of dampness in the wood, take care of that right away. Because that is an environment that they thrive in. So if there's any leaks that's causing the wood to become wet and damp, take care of that as soon as possible, because we want to discourage the termites. We want to remove those small things from our foundation. Reason why that one stood out to me out of all of them, there was one more actually, there was two. The reason why that one stood out to me the most is because it said there's a leak. You have a leak in your house. There's a leak somewhere. It means there's a crack. It means that there's something that needs to be fixed. And because there's a leak, it's causing water to dampen your structure. And because water is dampening your structure, the termites are eating away at it. That is, to me, that is very powerful. That is very symbolic to why organizations and structures, and I'm talking NFL, college, high school teams, you have these coaches or athletes or players that come and they're not understanding that we have to take care of the leaks. If there's anything that's not right, you need to fix it. And if you don't fix it and you think that what's not fixed is harmless, it's going to draw and attract termites. What you choose to not fix will attract termites. What you choose to not resolve will attract problems. Whatever you choose to look past, look over, the things you just let go, you know there are problems, but you don't say anything. You know when your athletes are late, you don't say anything because he's a great athlete. When this athlete is getting, not turning in assignments or not getting things done, you just have another kid, another student do the work for him and turn it in, and you don't say anything because it's one of the best players in the country. Stuff like that. And so many more examples I can name. But things like that are often leaks and cracks in our character. They're leaks and cracks in our attitude that nobody wants to address. Why? It's hard work to fix foundations, especially when the foundation that needs to be fixed is more character. We're seeing so many athletes make bad decisions. And yeah, we can't stop nobody from, or make anyone make a good choice. But you got to think, right? How many people allow the cracks in that young man or that young woman's foundation to remain unresolved? How many people just looked over it? How many people saw it, didn't say nothing about it? That's the problem to me, because they attract problems. Leaks, cracks attract chaos. They attract silent destroyers. And yes, you saw them through high school and you didn't see it collapse. Yes, you saw them through college and you didn't see it collapse. And now they're playing professional sport. And all of a sudden, that young man or that young woman that was in your presence, and you saw some of those characteristics that were cracks in their characteristics, and you didn't say anything, and now you're seeing those flawed, cracked characteristics play out in really bad decisions. And the termites got to them. And their life is completely changed. We're making shows about them on Netflix and Hulu, and we got different things like that. We got documentaries, and we got all kind of stuff on not just athletes, but people that had cracks in their character. And I'm not saying that anybody's perfect. I'm not saying that at all. But let me say this to you. I am very grateful for the people that said, hey, you need to get that right. That's not good character. We don't do that. That's not how we do things. I'm pointing out the crack in your character, and I'm telling you that termites are coming. Those are the people that I greatly appreciate, because I wasn't in my right mind. We make certain decisions, and man, if we know, if we were to take the knowledge we have now and go back in time, gosh, we would all make better decisions. But some of us don't have the luxury of undoing some of the things that were done, that are playing out into very tough consequences at the moment. But all I'm saying is, I'm grateful for the people that stopped and told me, you got cracks in your foundation, termites are coming. I can help you fix this if you want. If not, I wish you the best. We need those people. The same way these athletes need us. These people need us. Just because I'm helping you identify the cracks in your foundation, it doesn't mean I don't have cracks in mine. I'm working on mine, or I have fixed mine. But I'm not forgetting the times where I had cracks in my foundation. I'm not bigger than that. I'm not bigger than issues and problems and imperfections. We all have them. And it is a wonderful thing that we do not live in them. But we all know that somebody helped us identify them, as we should, these athletes here. And so they talk about fixing the cracks. If there's any leaks, any cracks, fix it right away. You're not getting rid of termites if you don't fix those leaks. They used to put tents over your house back in the day. They used to have to get out of the house. They used to spray the house and fill the house with chemicals to kill everything in the house. Roaches, rodents, termites, insects, you name it. And it will work for a short period of time, but not forever if you had cracks in your foundation, if you had leaks somewhere and it was causing the wood to be damp. Are you following what I'm saying? Are you tracking? We have to fix our foundation. It's hard for any structure to remain standing with cracks. Another thing that they mention in regards to trying to get rid of these termites is ventilation, making sure that in some of the areas in your home, making sure that you have ventilation, making sure that your ventilation is right, making sure that that's in place and taken care of. And to me, again, alluding to the dampness, making sure that there's no dampness in any area where there's any wood in your home. And to me, the reason why that was also a pretty important message, and the way that I viewed that and relating it to, something that's practical and real, is if you have a certain philosophy or you have a certain principle and the way that you want to do things, it is not good enough that that principle, that belief system is being done by some of the athletes. It is not good enough that it is believed by some of the coaches, and some of the people in the organization believe this. If this is not something that is believed and entrusted with by the entire organization, then you have a problem. It's not just good enough that certain areas of your home, the ventilation, no leaks, everything is in place in some of your foundation. But in other parts of your foundation, there are cracks. There is no ventilation. That's a problem, because the part that is not in place and the foundation is not there and the leaks are there, it is going to eventually impact the rest of the home. Once any part of that house comes down, the house is no good. You got to fix it. And so when you're building something, when you're changing a program around, everyone has to buy in. Everyone has to believe in this system. Everyone has to buy into the program. It's not good enough if 25%, 50%, 75%, 90%, 99% is not good enough. Everybody has to buy into this system, has to commit to it. And that's kind of how I took that part of getting rid of termites. That if you do have some termites, it might be, or some silent destroyers, it might be because there are areas in your program, there are people in your program that don't believe what you believe. They don't see it how you see it. They don't trust you. They're not emphasizing, they're not reinforcing those things that you are emphasizing and trying to have reinforced, because they don't think it takes all of that. They don't think that it's worth all of that time and attention. So what you might be saying is not being reinforced. What you might be doing is not being mimicked. It's not translating throughout. And you'll see in time that that's the case. Because games like what we just saw on October 5th, 2024, will expose you. It will expose the termites in your foundation. It will expose the cracks, the leaks in your structure. It will expose you. It might be your players. It might be your coaches. It might be you. But something has to be fixed, and it's got to be fixed now before the whole house come down. Why do I think that those teams lost that were ranked high and most of them lost against unranked teams? Why do I think that happened? I think that happened because there are termites in their house that are terminating their structure, that are eating away at their foundation. I feel that happened because there are leaks in their structure. And these games exposed them. And hopefully they find the leaks. And I hope they find the termites, because the termites are in the areas of where the leaks are. And I hope that they fix that stuff, or else we're going to see more losses, not just on the field. Because, when athletes start losing, one of the coaches said, we're going to see how much the players care about each other. We're going to see how much they really are in it for each other. And I believe it's what the Alabama coach said, and I agree with him 100%. Because when things like that start to happen, it's nobody's fault. It's not my fault. It's his fault. It's their fault. We should have practiced harder. We should have did this. We should have did that. It's always somebody else's fault. And that's the focus, is whose fault is it? As opposed to, what do we do now? Where's the problem? Where is the leaks? Why is this not being translated throughout the entire program? Where's the ventilation is not right? The wood is damp. There are termites in our structure. That's what has to happen. We got to be more focused on the structure and the system than who to blame for the loss. It's going to really see what's what when we look at these games next week. Because Georgia lost to Alabama. That was a tough loss. They fought back. They came up short, but they fought. But guess what? They sure enough won their game this week. They sure did. Wow. Big Dawg, for the teams that beat for the Vandies that beat Alabama, for the Texas A&Ms that beat Missouri, for the Arkansas that beat Tennessee. I take my hat off to those coaches, to the players, to the organizations. That was amazing to see. It was amazing to see. We need teams like yours that did not lay down, that squared up on them, stood toe to toe with them, and showed them what a team is. Like I said in my last podcast, games come and they ask one question: which team is a team? And you all showed that. So we are not taken away from how well you were coached, how well you played, how hard you played, how disciplined you were. Yes, it wasn't a perfect football game, but obviously you had it in your mind and in your heart to come out with a win and shock the world. And you did, and I take nothing away from that. And possibly, if those teams were completely sound and solid, there's a chance you still would have won that game. I'm not taking away from that. So you did a heck of a job. For those that will hear this clip, you did a great job. But I also don't want you to be like them either. I like what Coach Prime did after their win against Baylor. It was an incredible game. And he saw it right away. He saw them termites. He said, y'all acting like y'all did something. Started the practice over from the beginning. And you see how they played that same week. Offensive line, defensive line were played a great game. Because that's where you got to really look for those termites to start setting in and cracks to start showing up after big time wins, after, we're top 5 in the country, top 10 in the country, all that stuff, and your chest is your chin is high and your chest is wide because of a ranking, because of a number. Not knowing that can change any minute. But it's about your work ethic. It's about your system, your structure, what you do as a team. And I liked what Coach Prime did. He stopped practice and started it all the way over. And that's important. If you see termites, if you see a leak in your foundation, you got to stop. You got to fix that right there and then before October 5th happens. Because it can happen to everybody. So I was shocked, Big Dawg. As you can imagine, I was excited, but I was shocked. I couldn't believe what I saw. I couldn't believe some of the how can I put this? Some of the attitude on display, some of the things that were done by some of the players because they had lost. It's the open display of just bad sportsmanship for some of these guys. Not everybody, not the whole team, but I was kind of shocked by it. I'm like, where was that during the week? Or was it there? Nobody heard you, Big Dawg. Nobody. Maybe you were saying, let's practice harder. Maybe you were saying, guys, let's focus up. And nobody listened to you. I don't know. I was pretty shocked October 5th with all the games that I saw. All the games that I saw that I got a chance to get to were great games, and it was a high-ranked team losing. I was except Miami. I watched Miami, and they were losing, and they came back in the end. Great freaking job, UM. Though I am not a UM fan, but I kind of am because I came from Florida. I was born in Miami, Florida, so UM was always the team I was watching and thought one day I would play on until, Gators came, and I thought that, maybe it's a better opportunity for me. So grew up watching UM, so nothing against you guys. Great job with that win against Cal. Very good job. But boy, y'all had everybody from Miami. You guys had those guys about to have a heart attack. So, Big Dawg, like I said, and this does not just go for football. This is also applicable to life. This is something I was honestly just talking to my wife about today, and we were talking about how it is important to identify and resolve problems, whether it be business, whether it be family, whether it be relationships, whatever the case may be. We've got to remove the silent destroyers, the things that we often don't pay attention to. And if we do see them, we've got to remove them. And we've got to figure out the cause of them. The fact that termites are here is telling me that there's a problem in my foundation. There's a leak somewhere, and I've got to fix that. Or else my structure, where I lay my head, where I rest, where I have dinner, where I break bread, will come down. All the years and time and ingenuity that has been put into practice to build and form this structure will all come down if I don't take care of those silent destroyers. Big Dog, I hope this podcast was helpful to you. It was definitely helpful to me watching the game, like I said, watching all the games October 5th. And it was very tough to see. Been there in my college career, and I understand what those guys are going through, and it is very tough to come back from that. And I hope that they all do. But like I said, to those teams that were unranked or low ranked, very low, great job. Excellent job. I was proud of you guys and what you all showed and displayed, and I hope you keep climbing, and I hope you keep grinding, no matter what your number is or still is not. Some of these teams are still not ranked, which is crazy to me after, beating. I don't think Vanderbilt is ranked, and I'm not saying they should be, but I mean, why wouldn't you be if you just beat the number one team? That's another podcast. All right, Big Dog. Appreciate you spending time with me. More to come. You know what time it is. Let's go to work.